The echo of a guttural, blood-curdling roar flies across the land, spreading terror and madness in its wake. A beast haunts the forest once more, and the call for heroes has been carried to the nearest towns and settlements. It is a desperate cry for help, one that only the most foolish would answer. Amidst the raging storm, a crack of jagged lighting splits the night and reveals three men entering through the mold-covered entrance of the village. Athenos the general. Behind the mustachioed, battle-scarred face lay myths and rumors. Nobody knows who he is, but everyone has heard something. Some say he is a Greek smuggler who sold opium along the Turkish coast. Others say he was the glorious battle commander of a faraway kingdom waging war on savage barbarians and prosperous empires alike. All that is certain is what one can see. An old man built like an ox with a short fuse and a sharp tongue. Damian the soldier. His long unkempt hair and scruffy beard hide a once most devout crusader. When the call for zealous men came to go east and reclaim the Holy Cross from the hands of the defilers, a young Damian jumped at the opportunity to shine bright for God. The horrors of war change even the most pious of men, though, and Damian is no exception. Wissant the priest. His face riddled with disease, his hair a greasy moat around the bald center of his head, and his smile a rotten collection of crooked teeth and chaffed lips. His ugly excuse of a face a perfect mirror of his soul. He was in the Crusades. His camp scorched to the ground, and he the sole survivor. Forever branded a traitor and a renegade. It is a wonder why God keeps answering his prayers. The village seems deserted, for men and women are huddled together in their homes, the warmth of their loved ones fending off the fear of natural and unnatural terrors. The group enters the tavern, the thick smell of alcohol and the drunken laughter a welcome change to the merciless downpour outside. The tavern owner, a tall and lean man, briefs them on the bounty. A werewolf roams the forest. The moonlight has claimed him. They will go after the beast with the first break of dawn, when the elements rambling outside have subsided. The night is long though, and the vice is plenty. Wissant downs drink after drink until his head slams against the bar. Athenos gambles his soul away. Damian has a time most lavish and decadent at the hands of ladies who only come at night. Morning comes, but nature still hasn't ceased. The rain will mask our scent. Or maybe not. Who cares? Let's get this over with. Athenos quips and the group reluctantly agrees. The rain falls heavy on the leaf-covered ground, and a thin veil of mist dances around the companions' feet as they make their way to the heart of the forest. They do not flinch when a cackling laughter echoes in the woods. They do not break when visages of long-lost loved ones cry for them. They carry on, their watchful gaze shining with resolution and confidence. The closer they get to the center of the cursed forest, the clearer the path of carnage the beast carved becomes. The ghosts of slaughtered victims roam these grounds, their faces still bearing the mark of fear and suffering as they dart and float around the companionship. A skeleton of ages past is scattered at the roots of a towering tree, bone and wood melting into one macabre exhibit of the perverse. Suddenly, a hulking shadow flashes towards the group. In a flurry of fur and claw, the werewolf is upon Damian, tearing at him with teeth dripping of death. The soldier fights through the shock and impales the beast in its shoulder, forcing it to retreat behind the trees. But Damian is already slipping into oblivion. I will hold it back, be quick. Athenos yells as he strides towards the beast. Wissant rushes to Damian and kneels beside him. He takes some powders and dusts out of a pouch and blows them at the soldier's face. In a hushed and trembling voice, he recites a prayer for his fallen comrade. The werewolf snaps its jaws at Athenos, but is met with the cold steel of a buckler and then the harsh metal of a mace. It lets out a cry of pain, and steps back to recover. Athenos though is hot on its tail and keeps the pressure on. With a quick jab it forces the beast out of balance and follows up with a blow to the side of its head. Then, he connects the mace with its shoulder and then its hind leg, forcing the werewolf to its knees. Athenos wings up for the killing blow, but before he can end the foul creature, the slippery ground claims him and he plummets headfirst into the mud. The beast spares no moment. It pounces to its feet and strikes Athenos across the chest. His armor opens up like a night flower in the morning sunlight, revealing the gory mess of his chest. He tries to breathe, but inhales nothing but blood. With iron resolution the man pushes on, pushing away the mind-numbing pain and the certain death that awaits. In one last hurrah, he swings his mace and parries the beast's deadly blow. Time seems to stop. The droplets of rain and sweat off the man's brow and the beast's fur collide and hang in the air. A streak of sanguine floats towards the skies, where the moon presides over the unruly ether from its opening in the black clouds. Athenos stares into the werewolf's gaping mouth, where animalistic hatred and obsidian abyss stare back at him. The beast plunges its teeth into Athenos' neck and jerks its muzzle from side to side, ripping the man's throat apart. With a final swing, it sends the grisly corpse flying. The werewolf stands up and howls, blood, gore and saliva flying in the air. Wissant now stands alone. Witness to this horrible sight, the old man is shaken, but not broken. He valiantly steps forward and raises his eyes to meet the gaze of the beast. Two orbs of black malice and hunger stare back at him. Wissant's eyes in response flare with bright vengeance. He grabs his robe and swiftly yanks it away from his body. A flash of light burns the growing darkness. Gone is the dirty old man. In his place stands the regal figure of a fierce warrior of God's will draped in shining silver chain mail. For Wissant is not a mere priest. He is the battle ecclesiarch, the first crusader, leader of the blessed, the flame that holds darkness at bay. With a confident swoop he unsheathes his sword, a sliver of light cutting up the lurking shadows. The blasphemous monstrosity recoils in terror. Even in its beastly and wretched form it knows. It knows of the blood the sword has drank, the souls it separated from body, the screams of horror no man's mouth should shout. Images of the paladin cutting down hordes of infidels blaze into the creature's hollow mind. It howls, trying to assert dominance once more, but nothing escapes its mouth but to pup's weak whimper. Without skipping a beat, Wissant calmly steps forward and draws a jewel-adorned cross from his belt. The rays of light reflecting off the holy symbol scorch and burn the beast and bind it to its knees. The trees bend and tremble in response to its wild growls. The beast madly flails and thrashes, its muscles bulging and its limbs twisting, but it is stricken to its place by the weight of the cross. The paladin is now upon it, staring down the foaming and frothing abomination. His sword, humming of silver and holy fervor, connects with the beast again and again. The vile creature is no match for the divine avenger as it crumbles motionless to the ground. Silence as cold as winter's cradle falls upon the forest. His footsteps are heavy, and long-buried memories sneak their way to the surface on his way back to the village. Infidels, they called them. The blood of man in his hands. Women and children raped and strangled. In the name of the Holy Father. A city scorched to the ground. He had to burn them, it was the only way. Wissant drapes himself in his ragged robe and continues down the muddy path, the pouring rain crashing down on his shoulders. The villagers greet him with gasps of shock, disbelief etched on their faces. Gazes and hushed whispers follow Wissant into the tavern. He sits at the bar and motions for a drink. The bartender collects himself and pours him a thick sanguine liquid. So, is it over? The beast is dead. Wissant downs his drink and motions for another. The others? Wissant gives him a stinging look and again downs his drink. Then another, and another, and another. So, you are the only one left. I have to admit, we didn't expect you to kill Pete. We underestimated you. Wissant looks at him over his glass. The bartender's head violently snaps back and his hands shoot towards the bar. His nails start growing sharp and thick. Black patches of hair start forming on his arms. Wissant jumps from his stool and goes for his sword, but he loses his balance and stumbles back. His vision goes blurry as the alcohol courses through his veins. The bartender's back arches upward, his shoulders widen and his torso pushes out of his clothes. He lets out a cry of pain. "My brethren, tonight we dine in blood," he yells. Wissant unsheathes his sword. Screams of agony can be heard from outside. The bartender's mouth opens up wider and wider until his jaw dislodges. Dense and foul blood oozes out of his mouth as his neck grows and locks forward. When the blood stops, a gruesome muzzle crawls its way out of his mouth. His face is now just a wrinkled piece of bloody cloth. His eyes turn red before they explode into a grimy mess and the top of his skull cracks open, mushed brain and gore spilling out. Wissant tries to steady himself. "Die Zaya, die Zilla." The door to the tavern busts open and two more grotesque monstrosities stumble inside. One is a woman coughing a wolf's head out of her throat and the other is a man, his eyes bulging and bleeding, walking on wolf's hind legs. Wissant forces his way to him and stabs him in the throat. Nilinaldum remambit. The bartender's body cracks and groans as the beast takes form. The wolf's head is now fully free. It opens its eyes and howls. It howls a bloody call that is met by more howls. The beast shakes off the last remnants of human skin and jumps on the counter, its claws digging deep into the wood which splinters under the immense weight. Wissant swings his sword and takes out another beast. But he is surrounded and the circle is closing in fast. In Gemisco, Tamquam Reus. A beast strikes him across the back. He falls to his knees, his sword flying out of reach. Ni pereni cremerign. The beasts dive onto the man, taking him apart piece by piece, the ravenous blows landing one after the other and all together. They bathe in his blood and revel in his flesh as his screams die out. It is an orgy of blood and gore. My heart is pounding. My lungs burn from the cool night air. My mind is reeling, racing, lost. My eyes open to a peeling ceiling and dirty sheets. My heart begins its slowdown as I realize I am in my crappy bed in my crappy apartment, not in the woods, not reliving the moment. You see, everything has been different since the incident, since I changed. I used to be just like everyone else, a regular guy, working his job, hoping to have 2.5 kids and a happy wife. When you are a werewolf, you are no longer just like everybody else. I pull back the sheets damp with my sweat from the dream. I always dream about the incident, like my mind can't get enough of it. I used to think I dreamt about it because it was so new and the change so stark. Now I realize it has become a part of me. I will myself to turn my head towards the windows thick with film from unknown numbers of previous tenants. Before I changed, I could keep a job and live in a nice apartment. Now I sleep in a crappy apartment, because when you are a werewolf, you don't keep regular jobs. Really, the thing people don't understand about werewolves is that they are regular people 27 days, then a monster for a day. After that, it's back to 27 days as a person. That's really the worst thing I can imagine. I pulled my feet over the bed. I changed 2 weeks ago, so the visible scars of transformation are long gone. No longer any broken nails or extra foot fur. Hobbit feet really aren't very attractive, but they stick around for a solid week. The small cuts you get while running about remain for a day or two. Then they scar, then the scars disappear. Hell, even my hernia scar has disappeared. It's so odd. I slowly walked to the sink and grabbed my toothbrush. It needed to be swapped out before the last change, but I still have not been able to get a new one. Really, I just get new teeth. So the brushing is for doggy breath. I remember the incident again as I stare in the mirror. The screams, and of course the blood. I used to be an insurance agent. Simple enough stuff. People pay you in case something bad happens. I can look up on an actuary table what will happen to you. Not to you specifically, but to the average of you across the country. We make you pay more than the risk if we sell a set amount of policies. Generally, you're losing money, but people like the peace of mind knowing nothing bad can happen to them. I guess I'm way past that now. I mean, I'm a werewolf. Not really worried about getting into a fender bender in the parking lot of the Randalls. When I first became a werewolf, I was really concerned with trying to control the change. I'd agonize over the location, pack food, blah blah blah. I mean, I still think about where and how I change, but it no longer causes me the stress it did early on. Heck, I've even quit my job and took a road trip in the middle of the month just so I could get to a new place. But, constantly looking for money and a job is tiring. Nah, my current system works just fine. I can only afford this crappy apartment, but I manage. I put on the janitor's uniform and go to work. You would be surprised at how much bodily fluid people leave in public spaces. Someone has to go around and erase the problems caused by the residue of the night prior. Someone has to put things just right so regular people can imagine their world is simple, and their transgressions invisible. Maybe that's why this job has stuck, and I like the system. My work life involves so much of how I thought about those early periods between changes. Plus, I remember trying to backtrack and fix the damages, like some insurance agent paying out claims for their own personal act of God. The people, however, are still the worst. Even today there was this jerk talking to me. I didn't like his look. He kept looking around too much, seemed to be looking through me. When I've spoken about the incident with people, they are surprised. I'm not sure why, but they always redirect and say they are surprised she was even there. I tell them about how strongly we loved each other, how desperate we were for each other. It just passes through them. Anyway, she obviously come out because I said camping would be fun. She just wanted to spend more time with me. I just wanted to be alone with her. Camping was the natural choice. I find someone has been moving stuff around. For as crappy as my life is, I like to keep my janitorial equipment in order. You wouldn't know by looking, but I am very careful about how I leave things and how I take care of things. It is helpful to know what's going on with your stuff, what's going on around you. It seems like someone came in my closet looking for something because lots of boxes have been moved. Not far, actually just a few millimeters, but I can tell. I hadn't expected she'd tell me she was pregnant. Does anyone ever really expect that? I guess those couples you see on ads who are always holding hands probably do, but nobody in the real world does. I mean, how can you? The world doesn't have a plan, you just are, just go. Things just happen. How can you plan for things? I know I never planned on becoming a werewolf, it just happened. Anyway, it's time to pull the clog out of toilet. Reaching my arms into the muck. Looking for that one thing you want. Isn't that what life is all about? I had been watching her for a couple of weeks before I talked to her. She was just so good looking, and her smell. I can remember the anticipation I felt that night. I loved her, truly. We set up camp early, busted out the brats and got to cooking. We both had a couple of beers and laughed around the campfire. I hear the noise of feet trying to walk quickly, but quietly, outside the bathroom. I had expected the jerk to come back. Hunters always think it will be easy between the moons. But that's why I put the pistol in the toilet. That's why I keep my place messy looking, but in perfect order. I put my hand on the trigger and make sure I can pull it out. After all, maybe someone just has diarrhea. He comes in with his pistol drawn. I can see the shadow under the stall. I turn and put 3 bullets through the silencer and into his chest. He falls backward into the slop sink. All I have to do is replace the stall door and mop up again. Seeing his blood pool in the sink reminds me of the incident. After the sun set but before the moon rose that night, I was so full of anticipation. My moment to let her know how I really feel was coming. It really was a good time for this kind of decision. After all, it was a hunter's moon that night. The strongest moon for us werewolves. Even before changing our senses strengthen. I can remember her screams as the change began. She took off like a little rabbit, but I had made my decision. I was a werewolf. After the change, I sprinted after her, the last vestige of my human life. The woman I loved, my unborn child, everything regular guy would want. I can still feel the joy of release when my jaws gripped her throat, and her warm blood rolled down my chin. The pure joy of accepting who I was, accepting my monster. I still relive that moment every night, 4 years later. It feels like a waste of good fresh human hearts to let this guy just die, but they really don't keep well for 2 weeks. I'll just dump his body like the others. Just another victim of a drug deal gone bad. Like I said, I have my system now. It is midnight. There is rain outside. The smells of must and hay fill my nostrils. I stand up from my resting place. This is some sort of barn. How did I get here? I look for a door or window of sorts, but I only see the outline of a barrel 5 feet away from me, and the hay that is on the floor. How big is this place? I hear the building creak under pressure as the wind blows and rain hits the side of the barn. There is a hole in the roof. A puddle is forming several feet from me, the hay getting damp and the soft ground underneath becoming a form of sludge. How do I get out? I begin to feel my way around, walking here and there, reaching for a wall. I eventually find one to my left and I follow my way along this wall until I reach a doorway. I stop, turn and look in. There is the faintest light glowing in the back of the room. Not daylight, but a glow from some source. Is it a lantern? I advance toward the glow. I reach my hand out at the source, I can see my fingertips. There is something dark underneath my fingernails. It might be dirt or blood. I can't tell. If it is blood, it is not mine. I touch the glowing light. It is a dying lantern, with only a little oil left. Will it last long enough? That voice. I am hearing that voice. Is it my thoughts? It cannot be my thoughts. I am thinking right now. I cannot speak. Why can I not speak? That does not sound like my voice nor my thoughts. There is someone else with me. Something else. Who is there? I pick up the lantern and turn to walk back down the narrow corridor of which I came. There is a shadowy figure standing in the doorway. It appears to be a woman. Who is that? The woman turns and walks out of the doorway. I chase after her using what little light I have, and once I have gone through the doorway, I quickly turn left and then right. Where did she go? That voice. I am not saying that. It is coming from above me. No. To my left. No. To my right. No. Behind me. I quickly turn around and see who is there. No. Where is that voice coming from? I feel as if I am being taunted. This voice can read my thoughts. It knows my confusion. It knows my pain. It knows my confusion. How? I need to find that voice. It needs to stop. I turn to my left and continue to walk through the room. The light from the lantern lets me see about 3 feet in front of me and below me. There is a large hole in the floor. Is that where the voice is? That voice might be coming from down there. I would climb into the hole, if I actually had the courage to do so. I keep on walking. There is a slight shuffling next to me. I turn and shine the light at whatever moved. I see nothing but darkness. The room is too big for the light to reach fully across. Is there any way out of here? If that voice does not stop, I will scream my eyeballs out. I just realized. I cannot open my mouth. I reach my hand to feel my lips. Where did my lips go? The voice took my lips, my mouth. I cannot speak, I cannot eat. I can breathe, I still have my nose. What if my nose gets stuffy? The voice knows my fear. It knows where I am. The only way of escaping is finding a way out. I begin to run. The room seems nearly endless, as big as a ballroom. Will I ever reach the end? I am still running. I trip. There was another hole in the ground. This one was smaller. I am lucky I didn't fall in, under the floorboards where the voice made well. I scramble back up and keep moving. There must be an end. I take one more step and the oil in the lantern dies out. How will I find my way? Every time the voice asks a question, it gets louder. It wants me to be scared. It wants me to be angry. It is getting what it wants. I need to leave. I take several more steps and fall. There was a hole in the floor. I am underneath the floorboards. I hear footsteps above me. Who is up there? I hear footsteps behind me and then someone or something falls through the hole. I turn and run the way I came. I do not know where I am going. I am under the floor. If I can reach the hole near where I woke up, I can climb out. Maybe I can break through the boards in the room where the oil lantern was. Who is behind me? The voice is behind me. It knows. It continues to ask the questions. How much further till the hole? I keep running. This seems to be taking longer than it did before. What if I already passed the hole? I begin to reach above my head while running. I feel the floorboards. The boards are wet and soggy. I must be near the leak. I stop and frantically feel above my head. I rub my fingers across dirt. The dirt falls on my face and I quickly brush it off. The floorboards stop and there is space. I stick my hands through the hole and pull myself out. Where is the lantern room? I climb out of the hole and feel my way along the hole until I reach the room. I turn and run down the corridor until I hit the wall. What about that woman? I remember this is where I saw the spectre of the woman. I begin attempting to break my way out of the room. I pound my fists against the rotting, wooden wall. The boards begin to crack. I hit again. Is it coming? I break my fist through the board and I begin to rip other boards out of the wall. I reach my hands through and feel empty space. I pull myself up in an attempt to climb through the hole I have created. What if I cannot fit? I cannot fit. I hear the footsteps approaching. I turn and see the woman walking down the corridor. I look and see there are more figures in the room. Who are they? The figures approach me slowly. I try with all of the strength I possess to force my way through the hole. It isn't working. Who are you? The voice is no longer just there. It is right in my ear. I turn and look to see what is there. I see nothing. It is as if the voice is in my mind. The voice is controlling my thoughts. There is no escape. I fall out from the hole in the wall. I hit the floor. I black out. I do not remember what happens next. It is midnight. There is rain outside. The smells of must and hay fill my nostrils. I stand up from my resting place. This is some sort of barn. How did I get here? And then I remember.